The KCLR Daily with Brian Redmond. On air, online and on smart speaker.
Oh, it's a fun this morning on the KCLR breakfast. No winner on the mystery voice, I understand, again today. I believe it might be worth €200 or so tomorrow. And John will have tickets to give away for Tradfest as well. So if you haven't been listening, do tune in to John Walsh from 7 o'clock every morning. At this time every morning, we do this.
What's the story on the KCLR Daily?
An opportunity to have a friend of the show, somebody maybe a person we've never even met before, come in and we can ask them what's going on in their world, what's going on their news feeds, I suppose what's on the agenda, to use some old language. Our guest on What's the Story this morning, Margaret Kirby, Health, Safety, Environment, Communications Specialist and coordinating an event in Kilkenny on Friday the 8th of March for International Women's Day. Margaret, you're very welcome along to the KCLR Daily.
Hi Brian, delighted to be here, thanks so much.
Well, we'll come on to talk about International Women's Day and the event and all that in detail in a moment, but described as a health, safety, environment and communications specialist, it seems quite varied.
Yes, it's an interesting title, and it's a role I'm working in for many years now. And I suppose the health and safety aspect is in relation to workplaces and keeping people safe and giving them information that is practical and user friendly. And that's where I suppose the communications aspect comes into it. I really am a strong believer that how we communicate is so important to get a message across and to influence and to engage buy-in with other people. We need to be able to communicate clearly. We need to be able to understand what motivates other people to want to engage with our message. And that's part of the reason I became involved in this event for International Women's Day, because I suppose how women interact with each other and how we communicate with each other can be so important in terms of how we feel and the connections and the friendships that we build. The event itself is actually going to happen on the Friday the 8th of March from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock in a really nice intimate venue, and it's called the Book and Coffee Shop, and that's in Kilkenny City. And it's going to be quite special because we're going to have a workshop and a panel discussion. So where did this come from? A very nice gentleman called Martin Matthews started a conversation with me some time ago. And the idea really was, what can we do to be inclusive to people? And it's not just for women. It's to open up the conversation to men and to women and to all ages, really. We wanted to make it local and we wanted to make it personal, and that's why we decided on the theme of a question. So the question is, how are you investing in the women in your life?
Okay. Well, let's investigate that a little bit, because obviously that's a question that could be asked to anybody, because I think often International Women's Day can feel like an opportunity for women to celebrate women. It's not often, framed in a way whereby maybe it's an opportunity for everybody to celebrate women.
That's a really, really good point, Brian. And I think that as women, we really can be the best to each other, and sometimes we are not always the best to each other too. And this is opening up that conversation, because it's only by being inclusive and thinking about who are the women in my life, like who are the women in your life, Brian. And when we make it personal...
Don't ask me that question, because I'm bound to forget one of them. That doesn't sound right either, but you know what I mean.
When we make it personal, it's no longer somewhere out in the world, women somewhere else. It's bringing it back to our own personal lives, our homes, our relationships. And it forces us to think about, is it my mother? Is it the person I work with? Is it a female friend? Is it a sibling? Is it a colleague? Who are these people? And what does investing mean? And investing means different things to different people. Like, some people think investing means financial investment, and that's one type of investment. But as people, no matter whether we're women or men, we need so many other types of investment. We need people that maybe sometimes just listen to us. We need people that smile and are friendly. We need people that can encourage us and support us. And throughout our lives, from when we are very young, if we're fortunate, we will have had experiences of people like that along the way.
There's obviously there's a major difference between, for example, International Women's Day and Mother's Day. Firstly, obviously, because not all women are mothers.
Yes.
But is there a danger that what International Women's Day could become almost becomes like a secondary Mother's Day, in terms of you make a tokenistic gesture of, you know, buying somebody a coffee or bringing home flowers or saying I'll go home early and, you know, stick the dinner on, whatever it might be. Do we need to treat International Women's Day very differently from how we treat Mother's Day, for example?
I think with International Women's Day, it's all women. And I think just because a woman might, you know, like to be brought out for tea or coffee, or someone does something nice to her, that's nice and that's special. But women need to feel special probably more than just on one day of the year. The event is really to remind people about that. And not every woman is a mother. So there's two very clear separations on that. Mother's Day is nice. It is actually focusing on one particular cohort of women. We want this event to be so inclusive. It's not about whether you're a mother. It's not about whether you're an older woman or a younger woman. You don't even have to be a woman for this event. We want to just bring people together to share stories, and that's why we have at this event a panel of really interesting women. We have Mary Jane Mulrooney. She's a professional career coach, and she has her own interesting story to share about where she came from and how she made changes in her life. We have Eilish Walklett. She's a youth worker and advocate for empowering young minds, who has a lot of experience in dealing with younger people and some of the issues like loneliness, which is a key issue for them. And we have Alison Phelan. She's a general practitioner who's very much based on looking at the holistic health side of things. So really, it's just to be as inclusive and as welcoming as possible. And I suppose, Brian, what I'd say about our event is that we are women coming from different backgrounds, and we want this event, it's a workshop, we want it to be engaging. We want people to feel comfortable, to feel safe. It's not about judging about, are you a mother, are you working, are you in a different role. It's really non-judgmental, it's friendly, it's a safe space. It's about sharing experiences, listening to each other. A lot of people in their day-to-day life don't feel listened to, and that feeds into this feeling of loneliness. So having a conversation around this, bringing like-minded people together, it can only be for the good, because this is about an event that creates hope, inspiration, connection. It's something that we need as social beings. We need to feel that we're with people that get us, you know, and that listen and that can share their perspectives with us as well. So it's really exciting. We're really, really happy to be doing it, and it's going to be wonderful.
Listening to you talk there about the phrase that you used a moment ago, which really is that people get us.
Yes.
All right? And with you being a communications expert, the question that I wanted to ask, you know, combining those two skill sets is, communication is often more about listening than it is about actually presenting or projecting or something, you know, along those sort of lines. For people that do have women in their life who maybe feel unheard, or people that don't feel included in some way, shape or form, what simple piece of advice could you give, if there is one, before we finish, as to how people can open up those conversations and yet still at the same time allow the people they're communicating with to feel heard?
One of the key things, I suppose, in communicating effectively with other people is the ability to express empathy, Brian. Empathy is really, really powerful, and empathy is about putting yourself into the other person's shoes. We're all coming from different life experiences, and some people's lives have more ups and downs in them than others. Sometimes a person might just need someone to look at them and smile and say, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and to make that important so that that person feels heard. A big barrier in the world we're in now is time, and a lot of people are...
He snorts with laughter,
yeah.
She says.
And depending on the stage of life that someone is at, like time can be a huge barrier, because, you know, there can be deadlines if you're working, there can be pressures if you have children, they're in school. People are no longer readily available in their homes, they're gone from their homes most of the time. And, you know, I have people saying to me, you know, they don't feel that they can just drop into somebody's house and have a chat because there's nobody there, people are gone. I think just a small step in the right direction is just being able to sometimes put yourself into somebody else's shoes, and just think about what's it like for them, and really kind of go there, because if we can't express empathy when we're listening to somebody or talking to them, because this is a way of investing in them. Also, if people feel listened to, they, in a way, they feel better about themselves. But empathy is the starting point, and that's so important.
Great advice, Margaret. The event coming up, as you said, on International Women's Day, which is Friday the 8th of March, in the Book and Coffee Shop here in Kilkenny between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m, if that's correct.
Yes.
Do people need to book in advance or anything like that?
There's no booking. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible. You show up at the door and there is fabulous coffee available to buy. And it's a small, intimate venue, so we're really excited about it.
Some great guest speakers as well. Absolutely sounds like a fantastic event. And as you said, not just for women.
Not just for women, open to everybody. We're all inclusive.
Well, Margaret Kirby, a health, safety and environment communication specialist, thanks for being a guest this morning on What's the Story?
What's the Story on the KCLR Daily.